Hello, everybody, and welcome to this very special edition of the Nextlander podcast. Special in a lot of ways. The first is Alex has moved offices. We have a new Nextlander location. We're expanding out. We're getting a little bit more coverage in New Jersey.
Yeah, you just weren't cutting it, man.
No, we have two offices in New Jersey now. We are sadly closing the New York office.
Thanks, Eric Adams.
Very soon. Good news is everybody there is been given the opportunity to move to New Jersey, and the one person that works there has taken it.
Yes.
So you are speaking from your basement.
I am. This is the basement.
I did. Did you also shave your head? There's like a word picture that needs to be painted here because like the wall is entirely black behind you.
Yeah.
You appear to have completely shaved your head. And there's some very sinister
backlighting,
overhead lighting, kind of like just half in shadow kind of thing.
Not gonna lie, you got a little Apocalypse Now thing going on.
Oh, fantastic. That's what I was going for.
Yeah,
you know?
you got a little Brando in the huts going on. But
The horror. Yeah, the black is actually just so I can continue painting the picture is actually just corkboard. Like there's all push pins and corkboard back here, so I'm gonna put a bunch of bullshit on there. That window, I have not gotten around to putting a blanket over because that has this glow that I think I'm gonna need to block out for the camera. Not that it's doing a whole lot other than just giving me light anyway. And yeah, no, I shaved my head actually a few days ago, but it's much more noticeable I think with this lighting. It definitely has a real glow off the dome kind of thing.
Looks great though. It looks like your shot is not too different than, let's say, the Giant Bomb East studio with just the kind of dark wall aside from the big window behind you. Sounds great though, and that's really
the AC is running and it is not hitting my noise floor. Like great. It is not coming across on the mic as far as I can tell, and that is really the only thing I was worried about.
Listen, I'm going to find out in 2 hours.
Yeah.
When you send me that file, just how noisy
there is not even a hum
is
on this WAV file that I can see.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. Well, congratulations for
Thank you.
At least having your computer over there. I know we know that you will be moving there in the next 2 days and kind of getting the rest of your stuff. So,
I mean, tomorrow is when pretty much everything is coming over. So,
great. I'm sure everybody's excited to see you from the basement,
live from New Jersey.
Not necessarily the week we get back, but very soon after,
or even the week. Yeah, it's gonna be a couple weeks before anyone sees what's going on in here. But that's fine. That gives me time to set everything up right.
Yes. Also, a very special podcast, Brad Shoemaker, because this will be the last live one we do for a week here. We are going to be taking a break, and I'll tell you, boy, howdy, I'm ready for a little bit of a recharge. I don't know what happened these last 2 weeks. So maybe it's summer, maybe it's the schedule changes with the kids and everything, but boy, something happened where you know what it is also, Brad? I don't know if you get this too. I feel like everything gets a little harder as the news and releases just dry up. You know, it's just like, as a place where we cover a lot of games, it's so much easier when stuff is just pumping out. And then when it's like, I feel a little guilty just talking about continuing to play the same stuff we played, you know?
You gotta finish games sometime.
You definitely do, but
says who?
Yeah, definitely do. It just, I don't know. We'll talk about it when we get to the games that are out.
I mean, that is a constant balancing act to get real here.
Get real.
Is the time better spent finishing fewer games or sampling more of them?
It's a good question. There's no answer. There is absolutely no answer.
Some real one-hand clapping type shit.
That's why it's nice to have a week where hopefully you just play whatever you want. You know, if you want to play a game, go play the game you want. If you don't want to play a game, don't play a game.
I'm going to play some Unpacking, I think.
Unpacking is a great game. It's fantastic. Put the socks in the drawer, fold them up nice and neat. We're going to get right into it here.
God. Cleaning out my sock drawer is quite literally a bullet point on my things to do next week list. Like, no joke.
I believe it.
Yeah, look. The thing is, throw out all your socks, just buy all the same socks.
But what if you need some old socks? Like, once in a while, you might need some old socks. Like, occasionally having some threadbare clothing. What if I went paintballing or something?
Just make the new socks the old socks, you know? Just be nice to yourself and wear new socks paintballing. Just go for it. Get rid of all the old socks and and buy socks that are interchangeable so you don't have to pair them up anymore. You know what I mean? Like I've got knee-high socks, I've got like boot socks, and then I've got ankle socks. So they're all the dress ones, the ones that go up the calf. I guess knee-highs are really, yeah, they're knee-highs. Like the calf ones, those are different colors, but everything else are just universal pairs because I hate freaking matching socks. It's like my least favorite. It's not, I shouldn't say that. That's hyperbolic. There are like a billion things I hate more than matching socks, but tedious is what I'll say. Anyway, I said we're going to get right into it. Talk about socks for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the important stuff. This is what people come here for.
But this is my segue into people socking it to them.
Oh, there you go.
Like in wrestling games.
Oh, yeah.
Alex Navarro, what is up with the All Elite Wrestling?
That game that they have been talking about making for at least 2 years now, they finally put it out.
How did we go from it felt like it was 2 years of no, they haven't shown it, like nobody knows what's going on with it, like there's no footage out there yet, to all of a sudden, I'm playing it now. Like
it was weird. Like the rollout for this was definitely a little weird in the sense that they were showing little bits of gameplay here and there over the last couple of years, but it was in pretty small chunks, and a lot of that footage was intercut with footage of wrestlers just talking or playing, which did not fill me with confidence in that they were comfortable just showing long stretches of that game. So just to kind of preface this a little bit, this is AEW's first game. It is in tandem with Ukes, the former makers of a bunch of those WWE games before they split with 2K. And the philosophy of this game, at least the way they've been talking about it for a long time, was they wanted to make something that was more akin to like those old N64 wrestlers that I and many of my ilk really have a lot of love for. And I think on paper, and at least in spirit, they have mostly done that. The game is like the gameplay is designed very similarly. Like there are weak and strong grapples, weak and strong strikes. You know, you either press the button or hold the button to do one or the other. And then you press direction on a D-pad and one of the various face buttons to do a type of move. You know, same like style of doing special moves. Like a lot of the match flow feels very similar to those games.
Is it contested with like the stamina of your wrestler? Basically, who's going to win this grapple? Or I feel like again, I'm not a wrestling game expert. I've played a bunch of them, but sometimes, my wrestler's too weak. They're just getting worked now. You know?
So the stamina stuff is a lot more prevalent in the current WWE games. Like the way their like health meters and like, you know, build up meters kind of work is a little bit more that. This is like spirit meter, basically. Like there is a little meter that each wrestler has, and when they start getting their ass kicked, it starts going down into the blue until it eventually hits danger, in which case you are basically like, if you get hit with a finisher, you're done.
Okay.
But once it starts, as you start doing moves, it starts building that meter up and up and up, and then eventually that gets you to your special signature and then your special move.
So if you're in the blue, can you work your way back up if the momentum changes? Okay.
Yeah, if you're able to reverse some stuff and kind of move your way, you know, past what they're trying to do, like you can build yourself back up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that is exactly how those N64 games worked. So that is, you know, that is definitely like part and parcel with that. And so
when you said the N64 stuff, are those if I'm
talking
confused,
about like
is it the Aki games?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Like the 2 WCW games they made, the 2 WWE ones they made, No Mercy and
super fun games.
Yeah, I love those games. Like they legitimately are like my favorite wrestling games.
Yeah.
I don't think they have completely nailed the feel of those games with this though. The mechanics are there, but there's a little bit of I don't know how to say, like stiffness is maybe the thing that I feel the most when I'm trying to like Yeah, well, not that kind of stiffness, unfortunately.
Okay,
I was hoping for that, but it's not bad. Like I think the gameplay is actually probably the strongest part of this game. So you know that is, and first and foremost, that is the thing that should be the best in it. It just doesn't have quite the same snappiness that I feel like those N64 games got, especially as they iterated and made more of those.
Sure.
Sometimes the grapple mechanics feel like they don't come out, like the grapples don't come out as fast as you would like. Sometimes the reversals don't feel like they're happening when it feels like they should. But it's not terrible by any stretch. It's like little things that I notice just because I've played an ungodly amount of those games, and inevitably they are trying to compare themselves to those games, so I am inevitably making that comparison.
So what do you think? Like to use bad metaphors or analogies, would you say it's mushier? Is it like it's like
it just doesn't
soggier?
Yeah, maybe a little soggier, I guess. It
Okay.
just doesn't have quite this like the snappiness, you know?
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, mealy, a little
bit.
wrestling.
So, this is the kind of thing that I think they will fix as they iterate on this game and make more of them. They'll fine tune it, they'll feedback and all that stuff, and they'll make it better. I think my problem with this game is the stuff that's around the edges is not very good. The roster is pretty thin at the start.
Okay, can I stop you? Because all I want to do here is play the guessing game.
Mm-hmm.
Who can I guess is in this game? CM Punk.
Yes.
Kenny Omega.
Yes.
That might be all I've got.
Okay. Yeah, look, hey, that's honestly more than I would expect from anyone who doesn't watch wrestling. So
yeah, like I feel like as popular as AEW is, like I don't get through osmosis the roster as much as I would expect.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to how many WWE wrestlers I could name off the head.
Yeah,
like I don't know if it's the way they're cultivating their stable of talent or what, but something about like the marquee names are just not rising above the din somehow to me.
Yeah, they also haven't been around as long. AEW has only existed for a few years at this point. I think it was 2019 they launched, somewhere around there. But even given that, they have a very large roster now. Like, they have a lot of wrestlers. They have like 3 weekly shows now. Like, they have plenty of talent to draw from. And I just feel like a lot, I'm even excluding the people who have only recently signed with the company, it just feels like there's a lot of names that are kind of missing from this. And I assume they're planning on adding at least some of these wrestlers as DLC down the road. But like Evil Uno's not in there. And like Evil Uno is literally, his character when he started wrestling was as Player 1. He was in a video game tag team on the indies and has been kind of like the person who runs a lot of their Twitch streaming stuff with video games. So it's kind of shocking to me that like he isn't on the roster, Like, I know he's not a huge name, but still.
Is that a licensing thing?
No, it's not. Like, he works for the company. They all do.
Huh. Like, what do you think? What do you think happened there? If you had to just speculate,
I think they at some point had to just scale back on how many wrestlers they were going to include, and that they just didn't like. I mean, Evil Uno does not main event on TV that often, so maybe that's why. But I don't know. It just feels like there's a lot of names missing here. I don't think there's more than like 35, 40 wrestlers in this game, and it just. Granted, the WWE games are overstuffed with characters and have been for years. Like, there's literally hundreds of characters in those games when you include all the DLC they do every year. But it felt a little thin to me.
Do you feel like there's room for content packs? Well, it sounds like there's room for content packs. Do you think like there are content packs in the works here?
I think there almost assuredly are,
okay.
And that's fine. Like, I hope they fill out the roster a little bit more. But the other stuff also just isn't that great. Like the story mode, that you kind of have to run through if you want to like build up your creator wrestler is kind of boring. It's a very bare bones version of hey, start an AEW career kind of story mode. And the creator wrestler kind of sucks, I have to say, out of the gate. Like, the options are pretty thin. The stuff like moves are not labeled particularly well, so it's hard to know sometimes what you're looking for. Like, if I wanted to make a particular WWE superstar, a lot of their entrances and moves are kind of listed under like generic headers. So I'd have to know it's like, it's generic male entrance 33 if it's the one and it's like, that's very time consuming in a way, If you want to just make a bunch of people, it's kind of hard to do that. And then you have to unlock things like extra finishers, extra special moves, like various abilities for those wrestlers by playing through the story mode with each one. And it's like, that's way too time consuming.
To even get it accessible in the character creator?
Yeah, you have to unlock that stuff for each character. And the thing is, like, it's not like you're building stats. Like, it's not a stat number the way that, like, 2K does, like, player ratings or wrestler ratings.
Yeah.
But if you want to add, more like the same number of options that the in-game wrestlers have, you have to spend a lot of time with those characters. And I just don't think most people are going to want to do that.
This is Ukes on this?
It's Ukes on this, yeah.
And THQ Nordic Publishing. So this is THQ and Ukes.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of.
Back together.
Let's
I know,
not.
that's why I said it, yeah.
Don't let them have this.
It is Ukes, though. I mean, it is just straight up Ukes.
This is some full-on Infogrames is not Atari shit.
Yeah, definitely. It makes me laugh when I look at the names associated with this. Be like, look, they're all together. The pieces are
all
in
here.
the cooks are in the kitchen. Well, what do you think, Alex? Like, okay, freshman attempt here?
I don't hate it. I don't. It's just that I think I'm a little let down by it because I think I was really hoping, given all the stuff they were talking about, how much they love those old games, that it would just be a little more fleshed out than it is. And there's even stuff like, sorry, there's just one other thing that kind of bothered me. Like, they included a particular match type that is slightly infamous in AEW lore, the exploding barbed wire death match.
Of course.
Because they ran one of those with Kenny Omega and John Moxley at one point. And I showed you guys one of those one time. Remember the Hayabusa Atsushi Onita match? And you saw that explosion, right?
Yeah, they're big and flashy.
It was pretty big and flashy, right?
Yeah.
So they did one in AEW and it sucked. Like, the explosion was pretty pathetic. And so they put it in the game, and I'm like, okay, are they going to do it right here? And the thing is, they kind of made it look like shit, like it happened in real life. And I think that was kind of a gag.
Okay.
But here's my problem with that. That's funny once. After that, I kind of want it to look good. You want to toggle that's like true to life, or like what you imagine, what this should look like. Here's what I would do is that I would say there is a 1 in 10 chance that the explosion you will get in one of these matches looks like shit.
Okay.
They randomize it.
And more content packs, better explosions.
Yeah. I don't know. It's little things like that where it feels like they're just made decisions that did not benefit really, like making the game feel more fleshed out and better. And so right now what it is there's a pretty good game in there, but it's really only fun if you're like playing with friends or, just kind of turning the difficulty up for sure, because it is not that hard on default, and just playing matches, because everything else around the edges is kind of not that interesting.
That was going to be my question. Like, if you actually truly really liked this or any other wrestling game, like, what posture would you settle into over in the long term with it? Is it like playing it online, like a fighting game, or like what is the draw on an ongoing basis if the game is good? I
honestly think this game is probably best suited for like couch competitive, like just sitting around with your friends and playing. Like, you could play online too, and I'm sure the online's fine, but that's never how I play wrestling games. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's room for them to add stuff to this one and maybe make it a little bit better, but it feels more like, hey, they strived for WWF No Mercy and they got to WCW World Tour, which is the first one of those that came out over here. And that game isn't terrible either. It feels very thin compared to everything else that kind of came after it.
So things AEW has going for it, correct me if I'm wrong, some Ukes pedigree in there, right? And
no Vince McMahon.
No Vince McMahon. And people at AEW who near the leadership positions that genuinely enjoy video games.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
like Tony Khan is like the owner of AEW. Like, that dude's a gamer. That guy used to fucking book like fake wrestling shows in a text-based wrestling simulator that a bunch of other people did. He was on message boards, like, complaining about wrestling the way the rest of us were. Like, he's an online nerd and definitely into games. Kenny Omega, huge gamer, fucking Evil Uno, huge gamer.
So people who want a good wrestling game within the corporation. So if you were to give or if I'm to give them the benefit of the doubt, maybe it's just, we got this thing out there first time with this game. It's a platform. Next one, like you said, maybe really judge them by the next one. I mean, obviously be critical of this, but what do you do to now that you got the foundation down, right? Yeah.
And I think the thing that they unfortunately ran into is that they ran out of time to best WWE, because this year's WWE game was the first good one in a very, very long time. Yeah. And so they missed the window of getting out there before a good one of those came out. And I think that kind of sucks for them. But they also had to get it out at a certain point. That game has been in development for not actually forever, but it feels like at least a few years. And at a certain point, you just have to get a game out the door and say, okay, we can build on this from here.
Of course. Yes.
I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just saying that, like,
no,
it's a letdown in some ways, but I do think there is at least some fun to be had with it.
Look, even I'm not a wrestling fan much at all, but even I was very curious to see if somebody could take a good stab at a licensed wrestling game.
Mhm.
You know, that especially hearing you and Dan and a lot of other people talk about the state of the WWE wrestling games and how kind of tired they had gotten, and some fresh air would be nice. So it's interesting. Competition's always good.
Yeah. The one thing I will give them, I will say, is that their move animations are pretty good. Like, they have struck a really good balance between a certain amount of realism, but also going for the most exaggerated, like, hurt-looking moves that they could possibly do. And that's something that I've always not liked about the WWE games. They feel a little too floaty and a little too motion captured. So that everything kind of lands the same way it does in a real ring, which is to say very protected and does not really look like it hurts that much. Whereas here, they're kind of exaggerating everything. Not quite to, like, WWE All-Stars level or anything, but, like, to a degree where it looks like, oh, that is the most wicked version of this move you can get. And I do appreciate that aspect of it.
Is there blood?
There is definitely blood.
Ooh,
they did not skimp on the blood. It's like pizza sauce in there when it fucking really goes, man.
Does WWE have blood?
They do, but it is like, there's a little smear of jam on your forehead. Oh no, a little bit of blood. Oh no.
Oh, gross. All right. Well, that is AEW Fight Forever, or All Elite Wrestling Fight Forever. One final question from me, at least. Are they, like, with Vince McMahon back in the WWE and all the shenanigans and horrible stuff going on there, does he like want to crush WWE? Or is there some like pact of, is there a way in which these work? Everything I've heard, and Brad, even you've said this with watching those documentaries, like he's ruthless, right? In crushing competition.
He's terrible.
So like, is there something behind the scenes where he realizes this is good for building wrestling as a brand somewhere?
No, I think for him, it really is just, he just wants to knock everyone out of... For a long time, he didn't take AEW that seriously. Like, he really treated them as just like, oh, they're another fly-by-night organization, whatever.
They'll be gone in a year.
Yeah. And the thing is, AEW has made some mistakes along the way, and they have not, always, I think, capitalized on the momentum that they had built up the best way possible. But I don't think the people in charge of that company are monsters, necessarily. Or at least they're not monsters on the level of Vince McMahon. And I don't think that, I think that AEW is probably still a very, very, very long way away from truly, like, matching WWE's scale and what they can do. But they feel established now. They feel like they are rooted, and they are not just going to go away. They're not just going to go bankrupt out of nowhere the way a lot of other smaller promotions have failed over a matter of years because they just couldn't keep a TV deal or couldn't keep, pace with what the competition was doing. And, I'm still hopeful about what that company can do overall. It's still, I think, a much better product in general than what WWE is doing, even irrespective of that fucking guy being back. But, it's just, I think that there are ways that they have failed to capitalize sometimes on being the primary competitor now. And I think this game is maybe an example of where it does not feel like they have quite push themselves into a position for, ideal success here.
Interesting. Well, like I said, it's always fun to watch a little bit of competition in the marketplace.
Yep.
All Elite Wrestling Fight Forever out now, pretty much on everything.
Yeah, I played it on PS5.
Okay. Out as of the time of this recording this week. So
yes, it's out on Thursday.
Out on Thursday. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with some things we have been catching up or continuing to play in the video game realm. Stick around. This week's show is brought to you by Bespoke Post. Alex Navarro, you've heard us talk about Bespoke Post and the Box of Awesome before.
Oh, I've done more than that, Vinny Caravella. I have, in fact, experienced the Box of Awesome myself many, many months in a row.
I have, too. I have to say, this month I got a cooler, like a foldable, squishy cooler. And though I'm not necessarily beach body ready yet, I use that cooler to put outside my door when I get vegetable deliveries, and they put the vegetables and stuff in the cooler with like an ice pack, and it's awesome. It's like, you know what? I have a use for this right now that I could use.
That's the beauty of the cooler, Vinny Caravella, is that you don't just have to bring it to the beach. You can cool anything anywhere.
Anywhere. I'll say Box of Awesome. Also, recently we recorded another Never Been a Better podcast. And when we record Never Been a Better podcast, I usually have a glass of whiskey using the whiskey glass that came in the Box of Awesome.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
What is the Box of Awesome? Well, from camping gear essentials, cookout must-have, drink game upgrades, Box of Awesome has collections for every part of your life. Every part.
Every part.
To get started, take the quiz at boxofawesome.com. Your answers will help them pick the right Box of Awesome for you. They release new boxes every month across a ton of different categories, and each box is valued at around $70, but you're only going to pay a fraction of that price. Plus, with each Box of Awesome, you're supporting small businesses. 90% of everything that comes in your Box of Awesome is from a small and up-and-coming brand. Get 20% off your first monthly box when you sign up at boxofawesome.com and enter the code Nextlander at checkout. That's boxofawesome.com, code Nextlander for 20% off your first box. Boxofawesome.com, code Nextlander. Thanks, Bespoke Post. All right, we are back. Brad Shoemaker.
Hello.
How was Clive doing? How was Clive?
He's cliving.
Cliving, staying a Clive.
Boo.
He has pressed L3 and R3 to accept the truth.
Oh.
Is what I'm gonna say.
Oh no.
That game, I am still trekking through that game. I am absolutely going to finish it. I need to see how it ends.
Okay.
The highs in that game are very high.
Uh-huh.
Man, does that thing have some filler in it also.
We're talking, of course, about Final Fantasy 16, the latest numbered Final Fantasy game out there.
Yeah.
What do you think in terms of filler to red meat steak?
That really depends on how much of the side quests you do, which, hot tip from our Discord, that side quests are a green exclamation mark on the map, and if they have a little plus next to them, that means there's something... I don't know what this says when the game itself needs to denote, hey, there's something valuable to do with this side quest.
Oh, boy.
The ones without a plus are just kind of there. The ones with a plus, like gate mechanics or some kind of valuable like reward or something.
So that's interesting because that's also kind of how some stuff is denoted in the online one. Jeez, I always get the number wrong. Is that 14?
I mean, 14, yeah.
Yes, 14. Yeah. 14. Like, this is... I don't want to get this wrong. I think it's the Heavensward team from 14 that made this game.
It is
my understanding. And yes, every bit of talking to people about what's in this game. It's like, yep, that's 14 too.
Okay.
I mean, as well.
Yeah, like, hey, only do the side quests that are colored blue or have this plus next to it or the little flaming check or whatever it is.
I'm doing all of them.
You are?
What if?
Oh, no.
Doesn't sound like what if. Sounds like you are.
I know. I mean, what if there's something good in one of them? I know I'm gonna find the one with the good nugget of writing in there finally.
Mm-hmm.
They're just the fetch questiest shit ever. Which, like, okay, for a good side quest, you either need good writing or good mechanics or a good reward.
Okay. Yes.
Those are the three. Most of these have none of those.
Okay, that's too few, I think.
They have a lot of writing, but it's fine. Like, it's well written. It's just very tedious because it's just a lot of people. Like, there's like, hey, there were like 12 lines from this person who needed me to go find their lost supplies and bring them back. You know, like this could be sped up.
I think I told you what my older brother said when we tried playing 14 was the first thing he said after kind of explaining the mechanics and stuff was like, good Lord, these people get paid by the word.
It's kind of how it feels. Like, the writing is good. Like from the standpoint of just basic diction and so forth. Like, the writing is well done. Like, is anything interesting being said? That's a more complicated question. Again, this is in the side stuff. Like, the main game remains very interesting. I think the Osiris Wrath comparison from last week is just even more true the deeper I get into this, which is like half the reason I need to finish this. Like, the big dramatic set piece, like boss fights or icon clashes or whatever the case may be between characters, both on the level of melodrama and also visual spectacle, are just fucking mind blowing in this game. Like, there are some truly incredible moments in this thing, which are basically the reason I continue to play it. I mean, the combat's good. Like, we talked about it before. Like, the combat is interesting enough. I do wish there was a little more to the basic sword play, because it is a lot about, juggling those different icon abilities and how you equip those and where and how you combo them together and all that stuff. And that stuff is fine, but while those abilities are on cooldown, there's not a whole lot to do with the sword that you weren't doing in the first 30 minutes of the game.
Are you actively dodging attacks or positioning?
Totally. Yeah, okay. There's absolutely timed parries, timed dodges, like all that stuff. It's just the basic 4-hit sword combo kind of doesn't change from what I've seen so far.
Okay.
I hope there's more there at some point, but I think it really is mostly about those abilities. Anyway, it's just full on. I need to see what other crazy shit is in this game. Like, I need to see it all. And like, the character drama is also engaging enough.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, is the actual narrative, are the beats interesting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I was thinking about jumping back into it possibly later on this year. But I would not if the story beats weren't interesting. But
no, it is. Okay. It absolutely has got its hooks in me in terms of, and like, I actually keep trying to like run this mental exercise as I'm in the middle of dialogue scenes of like, would this work as a 16-bit Final Fantasy? Like, can I envision little tiny sprites delivering this dialogue, this same dialogue, and telling the same story? And like, I think I totally can.
Okay.
Like, I think I could see this being a Super Nintendo Final Fantasy story and writing and dialogue.
Well,
so
look forward to the demake at some point.
You totally could. I mean, the sprites are right in the game. Like, somebody figure out how to mine. Well, once it comes out on PC, it won't be much of a problem. You can just mine those sprites right out of this. Like the 16-bit sprites, 16-bit versions of the characters are all over this game.
Wait, why? Like, they show up in menus or something?
Yeah, you probably saw them in the demo. Like, whenever you go to your subscreen in the lower right, it says party, and then it's got the little sprites of the characters that are currently in your party there.
Oh, I don't think I registered that. That's interesting.
The codex also in your home base, like the place where you go unlock lore. Has got some of those same sprites sprinkled around.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm still enjoying it a lot. I would probably be doing myself a service if I skipped the side quests that are not marked as valuable and just kept going with the story, but I'm just gonna do everything. It's not that much extra time.
Is there at least like a trophy or some kind of acknowledgement that you did anything?
I haven't looked, but like, I mean, some cases, like, you're getting some crafting materials or some money, but it's never enough to really be worth the time.
Okay.
It's like, I got less experience from finishing that quest than I would have from doing enemy encounter, like one.
Interesting. So your advice to other people would be skip them unless they have a plus or something next to it. Obviously,
yes. If you don't have the completionist brain disease that I do, then do yourself a favor and just do the stuff that seems interesting and just kind of truck ahead with the story.
Okay.
The Game of Thrones stuff is still like relatively light. At the point I'm at in the game at this point, there's definitely occasionally a cut to a king being a dickhead about taking over another kingdom or whatever, but like, you need some of that.
How about gratuitous horniness? Just kind of.
There's always an evil empire. It's been fairly light.
Okay.
Like the sexual stuff in this is like a lot for Final Fantasy, but extremely tame by almost any other standard.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's still primarily about, characters' inner turmoil, driven by the things that they have done with their godly powers type stuff, like very anime.
I'm still intrigued, not enough to dive into it quite yet. When you think all said and done, what are you estimating? 60 hours?
I had seen people saying like 40.
40 for everything, or for like a good chunk of it?
I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. I feel like I'm like maybe halfway through it now.
All right.
Is a guess, but I'm not 100% sure.
Final Fantasy 16 out now.
But like, they're genuinely have like that moment I mentioned earlier where that's the instruction on screen is press L3 and R3 to accept the truth. Like, I straight up had to put the controller down for a second.
Yeah.
Like, it had built to such a fucking crescendo visually, emotionally, the whole thing. And then it's like there's a thudding heartbeat in the background as it's waiting for you to do that input. And I was like, holy fuck, man. Like I literally put it down for about 8 beats before I picked it back up and pressed the thing. I was like, I cannot believe what I'm watching.
Hot damn.
It's awesome. But again, but those moments are, those are relatively infrequent punctuation on a lot of running to and fro.
Maybe I'll accept the truth in the future.
Yeah. I mean, you're fine if you want to get to it later.
Yeah, I think
it's not going anywhere. Will you pick up your demo save or replay the beginning of the game? Is the question.
Oh no, I'd pick up the demo save. The demo for me was mostly just watching a movie, about kind of like setup for the where things take. I assume you don't really control the character that much in the demo, and what you do control of the character is kind of just mashing square a bunch of times. So. Yeah, I'd pick up the demo save.
Yeah, I would just refresh your memory because the events at the end of that demo are like the focal point of the story.
I'll just go into my, what is it called? Hot time? Codex time?
Active time lore.
I'll just go into my active time lore.
Story successor to active time battle.
It seemed neat. I actually kind of enjoyed what they set up and the tone of it. Interesting departure from previous Final Fantasy games, so it was interested in that stuff. The combat stuff you described, it getting more interesting, at least with the icon stuff, is good. So that's good for me. Good for me. You don't get any other weapons, right? Like,
I mean, you equip swords, but they all behave exactly the same.
Okay. Final Fantasy 16 on the PlayStation 5 out now. We didn't put this in the news, but I saw a thing. It sold like hotcakes.
Oh yeah,
sold like
3 million copies or
something. It did
something.
about 3 million, but I guess that's less than 15 did in the same window. So
was 15 multi-platform though, or
No,
was 15 exclusive for?
Sure, it was PS4 only at launch.
It was
at launch.
Okay, I thought I remembered that one coming to Xbox, but maybe it was later.
Did, but not right away. I might be wrong about that. No, it was on Xbox at launch. Man,
it was okay.
I could have sworn that was a PS4 only game.
So
came to PC a couple years later.
Maybe look, we'll get to some platform exclusivity between Sony and Microsoft later. That's in the news, but maybe if this came to Xbox too, maybe their numbers would have been higher. Who knows? Brad, the game I am trying to finish up, but I'm having difficulty finishing up. The thing that's kind of in my way right now from getting into Final Fantasy 16, Diablo 4. I really want to finish it up. I swear, every time I sit down to go play that thing, I get about a half hour and I start falling asleep. Like
that's not optimal.
No, and it's like granted, it's like 9:30 or 10 o'clock, but I think that loop is getting to me at this point of just, okay, I'm going to go run this dungeon halfway through. I'm going to go back and sell all the junk I had. I'm going to come portal back in, continue just obliterating whatever boss is in there, and then portal back out. It's like a pretty samey loop going on for me. Like I haven't had a lot of fun speccing out my character even anymore. I found a good build I like, and I'm just kind of digging.
Yeah, that's kind of Diablo. I mean, in stark contrast to Final Fantasy 16, the story of Diablo 4 was not carrying the experience for me at all.
Yeah, I think the story for me has felt exactly the same, with maybe tiny morsels of information from when I started Diablo 4. Like it's basically the same, fairly same strokes going on, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm in Act 2, kind of just still chewing through that. No freaking horse yet, which I'm also doing every side quest I come upon, and maybe that's my fault.
It's a specific. Yeah, yes. Oh, you absolutely should not do that. You were extra going to hate it if you outlevel the story in that game.
I think I'm going to. I'm
Because
already
you have
in
to-
my 40s, and
You're fucked.
Oh,
Seriously.
dear.
No, because the cap is 50, and you have to finish the campaign to unlock World Tier 3 and get more interesting stuff going on, and so you're going to play through most of that campaign at the cap.
So I thought you can do that capstone dungeon or whatever at 50. You have to finish the
story to
campaign.
do that.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, whatever, Diablo. Yeah, and it's even worse here too, because I'm not even sure what I'm getting out of these things. It's mostly just vendor junk I'm selling. From the loot I pick up. It's not like I'm definitely going to get this weapon that I'm going to de-spec de-aspect and put back on. So yeah, I wish, like, I'm still kind of enjoying it, but I am finding it kind of like junk food TV you watch when you're just trying to relax at night or something, where you're just like, I'm just gonna put this thing on. I'm finding Diablo like that, where I'm just gonna go sit down and play this and probably fall asleep and just kind of find myself in a dungeon. Problem is you can't pause that game, and also things respawn constantly all the time, so not a great one to necessarily fall asleep to, but I'm a necromancer, so I have a team of undead guarding me all the time.
Yeah, they're starting to talk about Season 1 for that game, and I'm starting to question, am I just going to miss Season 1? Because I'm sure you'll have to have finished the campaign to do the Season 1 stuff, and do I even want to? And if you don't, I assume you've just entirely missed your chance, because that was a big part of it was like maybe the biggest selling point of the fancy edition of that game is that it comes with all the Season 1 stuff pre-bought, like the Season Pass and everything, and so I'm sitting here going, do I need to play way more Diablo than I probably want to in the next 6 weeks to make use of what was in that deluxe edition?
Maybe if you mainline those main quests, it goes a lot faster, and you can kind of just burn through the main stuff pretty quickly. I don't know, or maybe you'd be under-leveled and be a pain in the neck.
Are you talking about in Season 1?
No, to get through the story stuff in Diablo 4. If you just
I think it could probably be finished pretty quickly. In fact, the recommendation, like I said, has been just play the story quests, because you're going to massively out-level the story if you don't.
I'll tell you what, I'm not finding it very challenging, death-wise. I will die occasionally, but it's mostly because I zoned out. I wasn't watching my health at all.
The bigger question for me is just, is there time pressure with the season starting?
Yeah.
And is all of that just going to be lost if you don't do it within the season? I assume that's the case.
Probably. That's how those things go, right? I did do like a world event. I don't know what there was, an epic thing or something. I forget exactly their terminology, but it was
world
like a
boss, maybe.
What'd you say? What'd you call
like
it?
A world boss.
Maybe it was a world boss. It was definitely a thing that had a timer going on it. Like, hey, this event is going to start in 2 minutes, and a bunch of players showed up there, and we ran around and killed like 3 heavy bosses.
I haven't seen one of those. I kept looking for them. That sounds like maybe that's what that is.
And it was
it Shava, Wandering Death, or Avarice?
No,
it sounds like those are the 3 world bosses that are in currently.
This had like three I'll call them mini bosses that would appear after you killed enough adds or mobs, and then we had to kill 3 of those things. So I'm not sure if it was like I said, it was inscrutable.
It was not just one of the standard world events that are popping off left and right.
No. This like pinged on my map when I was far away and had a counter. But it was like so many people there, and it was just a mess. It was just a mess of red. I was looking at the mini-map instead of the screen to parse where I had to go because of the kind of...
that sounds fun. I want to see that.
Just confusion on the screen. You just go towards the red dots are, and I would just, spam my abilities over and over again. We just tore through that thing. It was wild. And got like okay drops from it. Again, just selling most of the stuff or de-aspecting. But anyway, Diablo 4, I continue to pop it on and be like, well, it's like closing my eyes and just kind of moving my feet. Every time I stop, I've made some forward progress here, and I get closer to the goal. Whether or not I could say I'm absolutely enjoying my time with it is neither here nor there at this point. I think I'm mostly doing it to be like, progress is being made, which isn't the most ringing endorsement for a thing.
No.
Quickly here, I'll just say I threw on Sludge Life 2. You guys are familiar with Sludge Life?
I remember Sludge Life. I did not play Sludge Life.
I didn't play it either, but I remember it causing a sensation of sorts.
Yeah. Sludge Life 2 dropped as the time of this recording yesterday, and I never played Sludge Life 1. So I didn't really quite know exactly what to expect.
That's where Big Mud came from, right?
Oh, Big Mud's in there. Big Mud's missing in Sludge Life 2. It's kind of a diorama-esque, smaller world where you're running around, interacting with all of the weirdness in that world, doing some graffiti and getting abilities, like double jumps and run abilities as you kind of run around this world in your first person it's a weird setting. I think that's what I remember hearing from the first one.
Yes. It is definitely an intentionally off-kilter kind of world.
Yes, style. It's a style game, and it's fun to run around in, but it is absolutely an atmosphere game that you want to kind of go explore.
That was one of the Steam Next Fest demos that was out there. I feel like of all the ones I saw, that what is it, the home safety hotline game was the one that stood out the most to me.
Oh, I'm glad you like that one. Yeah,
that thing fucking ruled, man.
that had some real like good. They don't make them like this.
No, well, I mean, they kind of do, because that game is a little bit like Hypnospace Outlaw or Papers, Please, like kind of like you're doing a mundane call center job. It's just that they made it real fucking weird pretty quick out of the gate.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, that if you didn't see it, that game's whole thing is that you're a hotline manning person who is getting calls from various weird citizens saying like, I got weird gas coming out of something in my house, or, I've got weird dirt mounds in the back. What is that? And then at a certain point, it kind of gives way to some, like, I have demons in my house. What the fuck?
Yes.
And you're just giving them solutions based on that. I think there's probably more going on there, but that's just what the demo showed.
And a couple of current calls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that game seems cool. I hope they didn't show too much in the demo. I hope there was more.
You need escalation, right?
Behind the curtain.
Yeah.
If you want to check out the rest of the stuff we looked at for Steam Next Fest, we had about 2 streams, I'd say, worth of stuff there, kind of going through.
Spread across 3.
I still have a bunch of demos I downloaded.
Yeah, same here. They didn't expire or anything, right?
I haven't tried to start any of them, but I don't think so.
Go check those out. Those archives are up now. We're going to take a break again here. Can you believe it? We're going to take another break, and we're going to come back. I don't know if you guys knew this. I know you did, because we talked about it. More Activision Blizzard news.
My God.
Coming up after the break. We'll be right back. This week's show is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Alex Navarro.
Yes.
I have used ExpressVPN for a long time now. I think I've mentioned this before. I used to use it a bunch when we were traveling around at Giant Bomb, when we would stay at hotels, when I'd be doing work in places that I did not necessarily want to just get on naked onto their Wi-Fi services, let's say. I would boot up a little ExpressVPN, and they were pretty easy, pretty convenient. You just kind of select the location you want to be connecting from, or where you want to basically have your IP generated from, and you go and you have your little encrypted connection going through, tunneling through. But ExpressVPN has another thing they want to talk about here, and it's where you can use it to have your location base. Say if you're traveling around, you got your shows back home, let's say. You got your shows on Netflix, and Netflix is like, we don't show this show in this territory. You can kind of just set up ExpressVPN to say, maybe I'm not really here. Maybe I'm back home watching my favorite shows.
Maybe you don't know where I am. Maybe that's none of your business. That's why you need a VPN.
ExpressVPN can help you out over there. They have fast speeds that you can stream in HD with 0 buffering. It's compatible with all your devices, your phones, your laptops, media consoles, smart TVs. So with ExpressVPN, you can stop paying full price for all of the streaming services and only getting access to a fraction of their content. You can go over to expressvpn.com/Nextlander. That link is expressvpn.com/Nextlander to get an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. expressvpn.com/Nextlander. Thanks, ExpressVPN. All right, we are back. And it's time for the news, and I've got some news.
Screech. Sound of screeching brakes. Sound of scratching vinyl. I'm breaking convention here. I'm talking about a video game after the break. Because
Brad Shoemaker, what's the news?
We forgot the news is that I played some Mortal Kombat 1.
Yes. What?
Forgot to mention, there's not a ton to say there. It's the same. They did the stress test for that game over the weekend. Same build they were showing at Summer Game Fest. So plenty of reporting about that out there already. Not a ton more to say. We streamed some of it also.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about that game, because I said when they first streamed it at the Summer Game Fest reveal thing, I was like, it doesn't look maybe as better as I was hoping for a next generation Mortal Kombat.
Hmm?
I'm going to rescind those comments.
Whoa.
Okay.
Fucking YouTube compression strikes again. The game looks way sharper in person than it does on a 6 megabit stream or whatever.
Okay.
Like, I was kind of shocked, actually, how much just, like, fine detail. It's just, it looks super sharp, super detailed, very clean, very graphically impressive, I'm going to say, when you actually see it running in front of you.
And not that it makes a big difference. Well, maybe sometimes it does these days. Less these days. Well, you were playing on PlayStation 5?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Seems like they had people out there playing it on Xbox and maybe PC as well, I'm not sure.
Okay.
It absolutely looks like a next-gen fighting game.
Limited character selection in what you were able to play, right? 4 characters?
Same. It was
It's five characters, 4 cameo characters.
4 and 3. It was
okay.
Liu Kang, Kenshi, Sub-Zero, and Katana playable, and then cameo characters Kano, Jax, and Sonya.
Okay.
Seems very juggle heavy, but I mean, I think that's just modern Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, it was definitely juggle heavy for the last couple of games.
Like
at least.
11, from what I remember, was very much the same way. Like, getting my head around the cameo stuff and when to use those characters was tough. Like, I didn't get there at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just you hit a shoulder button and a direction to determine what they do. Seems like probably using them in combos is the way they're meant to be used.
Oh, yeah.
Like, to keep juggles going and stuff like that. It's hard to say. The people that were playing this game were very good. Like, when I tried to play more of it over the weekend online after we did that stream, and basically it was just like, like, I was straight up getting perfected.
Okay.
Like, I was just not even getting a hit in. I was like, man, I'm just going to poke at the AI a little bit more before this ends.
Did it start tracking your win-loss record at all? Or
no,
okay,
it
yeah,
did.
it must be a demo thing or a
Yeah, I'm
preview
sure.
thing.
They had all that stuff turned off, so it was just a free-for-all in the matchmaking. It seems cool. It
looked like you were having fun.
Yeah, no. I just haven't gotten a very good sense of it. Like, 11 had pretty good tutorials for here's the different options you have and when to use them and stuff like that. So it'll be a lot easier to get your head around once that thing is out for real.
I also know you, like I, and maybe Alex, are really interested to see how they handle their narrative stuff and their
Yeah, I mean,
story.
that's kind of the main reason I'm there. Like, I can't believe I'm showing up to a fighting game for story mode, but they've done it.
They've earned it at this point.
Yes.
So we'll see. That is just like my playing on Diablo every day. A little more progress is made, and that game will come out in September. I mean, barring any pushbacks, but it doesn't. I'm not getting that vibe. I'm not getting that vibe at all.
No, they waited so long to announce it. I'm sure they were extremely confident by the time they did.
Yeah. And they've got all sorts of plans already with their additional characters. They seem like they have a release cadence in mind. Mortal Kombat 1. It's the official name, right? Mortal Kombat number 1.
Mortal Kombat 1.
Mortal Kombat 1. Look for it come September. September. We've got some summer news here, though. The summer of Activision. There we go. I just put that in your head.
I don't know how that didn't exist before you just said that, but you found a way. You brought it here, finally, into the right universe.
Activision news continues. It had never really stopped. We just kind of stopped reporting on a lot of it because the trickles and everything that came out. But
we're past the trickles, my man.
No, we're on full on. People are in the bathroom releasing their bowels. What? The FTC, let's say Microsoft, Sony, the big players in this, Activision, were in front of the FTC trying to explain why in the world everything.
It is a deposition frenzy right now.
Why video games? What is happening? This we should say out of the gate, and we definitely will say out of the gate. This seems like it is a pretty closed courtroom style thing or deposition style thing. A lot of the reporting of this is scattershot and spread across a bunch of different reporters through documents and leaks and people secondhand.
It's kind of cool to see reporters at video game sites in a courtroom, like attending a hearing, like doing actual straight up court reporting. I mean, some of them, like Stephen Totillo, straight up have that background from pre-video game news, doing news-ass news. But still, it's cool to see this being covered the way it is.
So we've seen some stuff that's aggregating some of that actual reporting. We are not actually reporting on it. We're going to pretty much just go through some of the things we thought were interesting to come out of it or to have been reported on it. So it's a little out of our depth to we don't have the industry legal knowledge to go into some of this stuff.
I
like
ain't
some
no
these
kind
other
of goddamn
reporters.
legalologist.
That's right. So some of the interesting things to come out of this, we are currently on, is today day 4?
I
Or
think
5.
that's right. I think it's 4.
Okay.
I believe.
So we're, as of the time that we're recording this, I think Bobby, I don't think has gotten up there yet. I think that's...
He's on the docket here soon, I think. But yeah, it's been Jim Ryan, I think, is the last person that went up.
And Phil Spencer's talked up there.
Geez. Yes. Yes, Kotick and Satya Nadella are both due on the stand today.
Yeah, so some interesting things. I'll say, looking through some aggregations of what have been coming out of here, a lot of it, for me, top level, is Microsoft making the case that they are an underdog, that they are in quote-unquote third place in this industry, that having Activision Blizzard come in is filling a need for them in the mobile market with King. It's stuff we've heard before. Sony going out there and arguing that them having Call of Duty puts them in a unique position because Call of Duty is a unique property within the video game world, and that it'll adversely affect the landscape and competitive nature of this industry if it is wholly owned by Microsoft. Also making the case, and the FTC making the case in some of what I've seen, that Microsoft has not made good on their multi-platform promises in the past, in some cases with Bethesda, and kind of restricting or at least making things not platform agnostic and putting it first party on just the Xbox, which...
Yeah.
There's a lot of back and forth on that.
I think like some of the most interesting bullet points to come out of this are the what might have been sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, when it's pointed out like, Microsoft is making Starfield exclusive. It's come out. I mean, I guess this had been reported on somewhat. It sounds like Imran Khan, I think, had reported on this like 3 years ago, but it was confirmed that at one point there were talks to make Starfield a PlayStation exclusive before the buyout happened.
Yes.
So like little tidbits like that of like deals that were in the works or being discussed that never came to fruition, but it's like, again, like you kind of see a whole different world that could have existed being described here for stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, look, a lot of this stuff, this is some business happening here, right? Like, So you're seeing a lot of, while curated, a lot of sausage being made with these things. There's the part where I thought was kind of interesting and has been reported now, where Microsoft kind of just goes through a list of companies that they had looked to acquire. Right now, we've kind of talked in the past because we've kind of heard this before. Like everything's always on the table, right? People are always looking to maybe acquire something. But
Sega is on this list.
Yeah, just seeing. Yes, exactly. Seeing things like that.
Bungie.
I think that's Gearbox, IO, From Software on this list, CD Projekt Red on this list. Like, these are Housemarque, which it seems so Sony now. Like,
and always kind of did.
Yeah, it is
even before it was. Yeah,
is Sony now.
Larian, Remedy, 505, Devolver Digital. Like, like a lot of these again. Talks happen all the time. We don't know how far these things got, and these are just things that again are being reported. But that's a weird alternate future or alternate timeline where those things happened.
Yeah. Microsoft is just one of the few companies out there with the capital to actually make some of that stuff happen. I think some of the reporting about them looking at Bungie was that the talks had happened there, but that they kind of balked at Bungie's asking price, and then apparently Sony did not.
Sony getting out there, some of the stuff from Jim Ryan, again, just pretty interesting in terms of how the flow of this goes or how the FTC is going to look at this or what they're looking at. A lot of internal emails, a lot of documents being shown. One from Jim Ryan, I'm summarizing here, but basically saying that not that concerned about this, about them having having Call of Duty specifically, right? That was presented obviously by Microsoft to be like, look, Jim Ryan, he's not that concerned about
Even
it.
He's saying it's no big deal.
Yeah, later on, Jim Ryan being like, that was then because we didn't think this was going to actually happen. Not that concerned. Now we are very concerned. But just in terms of what the cases being made are like.
Now that my lawyers tell me we have to be very concerned, I am very concerned.
Or I think probably just Jim Ryan maybe being like, now that we are here sitting debating whether or not this should happen or not, very concerned. Suddenly very concerned. Let me see what else I marked down here.
Very concerning, looking into it.
Another interesting one to me is that there's evidence. I mean, a bunch of emails and documents have come out in this process, and like there's evidence of Bethesda bristling behind the scenes a little bit of the fact that their games are now being made Xbox exclusive, while Microsoft is at the exact same time out there publicly committing to Activision Blizzard stuff, never getting that treatment, and not being thrilled about it. Starfield in particular.
Yes.
Which, like, among other things, is kind of revealing of the fact that Bethesda is still kind of its own entity and culture to a large degree.
Yeah, and it's, it's also interesting. There's a thing from Jim Ryan in there. Let me see if I can find exactly where. Yes, here it is. Ryan acknowledged that Microsoft honored existing PlayStation's exclusive deals for Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop. He said he fundamentally has no quarrel with Redfall being made exclusive to Xbox. And on Starfield, he said, I don't like it, but I don't view it as anti-competitive, which, I don't know. I guess that puts, again, probably making the argument that Call of Duty is a very unique thing in the marketplace, even different than Bethesda's Starfield and, acquisition of Bethesda. But like, it's interesting to hear these two gigantic corporations trying to make a case, one to say we're so small, we need this, again, Microsoft doing a lot of service to them not being able to organically build up a mobile platform, and that they need to get King in there. Apparently they were also looking at Zynga at some point, and that didn't come through. And
I feel like Jim Ryan having to come out and say, like, yeah, I don't think it's anti-competitive for them to make Starfield exclusive, is like he kind of has to now that it's come out that Sony was exploring the exact same arrangement.
Yeah,
it's like this is totally a goose and gander kind of thing here. It's like you were going to do it too, so
yeah, there's just no way to frame that in a way that makes it sound like Microsoft is actually doing something dirty here in terms of competitiveness, because exclusives exist everywhere, and it's like, yes, the crux of this is, okay, is buying a company of this size and potentially making these products exclusive anti-competitive, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's like they could just as easily have given that money to Activision, said, make these games exclusive for us without buying them. Like, that is still a thing that companies do all the time with publishers.
And apparently there's stuff in there, too, that was interesting about Activision, and I forget if it was specifically Bobby Kotick going in there and trying to renegotiate the terms with Microsoft for Call of Duty on Xbox platforms, to basically say, what can you give us? And I guess in the end it was, how about like $70 billion?
Sounds pretty fucking good to me.
We'll just
Let's
take
do
that. Look, we just talked about Final Fantasy. Whether that is that said to be a timed exclusive officially?
Gosh, what came out about that? I want to say that.
Obviously, Sony doesn't own Square Enix, but
they also have a long-standing relationship with them.
Struck a deal, yeah. So, stuff like
that was a deal. Yeah, I don't remember what exactly the nature of that deal is.
So, stuff does get exclusivity. This is in a whole other kettle of fish, because on the other end of that argument, Alex, I would say Microsoft doesn't have the greatest track record with saying nothing's going to change, and then a lot of the stuff being locked to the Xbox platform for foreseeable future. So it's like, that's some damaging shit when and I understand why Microsoft is doing a lot of work here to say, we're promised Call of Duty is going to go on all these other things.
Yeah, it's just whenever they pull out come on, I'm just a little guy. Hey, come on, I'm just a little guy. I don't have a mobile presence. What?
They're not entirely wrong.
It just doesn't work, though.
I mean, they're not wrong about hardware.
Yeah,
they do.
I don't. Nobody knows what the numbers are exactly for this generation, but like they were in distant third place with the Xbox One, right?
Yeah, I mean, everything I've heard sounds like, the Xbox is doing okay. It's doing fine, but, I'm sure that they're still making up a lot of ground for PlayStation, and obviously, there's 17 billion Switches out there, so it's like, they're still coming from a position of some weakness. But at the same time, again, the problem is inherently, no matter where the gaming division of Microsoft is, they are still Microsoft.
They are. Two things. One, Jim Ryan explicitly came out and said, aside from 3 months where they had supply chain issues, the PlayStation has been ahead of sales for the Xbox, which I think we all kind of knew.
I think we all assumed that, yeah.
And then the other thing, too, is Phil Spencer making a pretty big case for the kind of accountability for the games division as a needing to have a profit-driven model within Microsoft. Like they...
Right.
I think trying to make the case, Alex, to your point of, hey, we still have to perform, right?
Right.
Even
they
though
can't
we have
just
Microsoft,
lose money forever.
That's exactly, I think, what he said. It's like we cannot post negative money here. I mean, look, there's interesting stuff here.
Oh, yeah. This is the first really genuinely interesting stuff to come out of this story in a while, I feel like.
Yes.
Because they are laying bare a lot of things that were, You're cutting through the lawyer speak and well, this is my case, so this is the only thing I'm going to say about it. Like, there's real detail in this that you wouldn't get otherwise.
I would encourage people to go check out Rebecca Valentine at IGN, Steven Stillo, like Jason Schreier is doing some stuff. Like there's people in there reporting on it, and they've got a lot of detail out there if you want to go dig into more.
For sure. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a lot of stuff, and I think, like we said, in addition to the testimony, there are just documents submitted that are starting to get out there as well. So a lot of
that's right, folks. We've got some documents here.
A lot of people doing a lot of work there to pour over those as well. I think nothing for me to like salacious or anything like that. It's business, and again, the testimony is filtered through. They're answering questions. I don't think they're being dishonest, but they're probably omitting a lot of things that they don't have to, say. That's how those things.
Yeah.
Given the very up in the air nature of this whole thing, and I know this is ongoing and it's a lot of information now. Does this anything that's come out so far give any perspective to you guys whether this gets struck down or passed? I mean, it's still early on. It's happening right now.
I definitely am not credentialed enough to
just like your gamer sense.
Predict.
You've been in the industry. You've got over 20 years.
I would guess this is probably going to go through still eventually.
Do you think it goes through in the States here at least?
It's hard to know, but
yeah,
maybe.
Alex?
I mean, I've been a staunch believer that it's probably going to push its way through regardless. I'm maybe like slightly less confident than I used to be, but I don't necessarily think I've seen anything so far that says definitively, oh, this ain't going to happen. But at this point, it feels very 50-50 to me. Like, I really, truly do not know whether it's going to happen or not. But I always lean on the side of, well, the major corporation will get what it wants.
That's fair. I'm going to say it goes through with concessions, like some minor carve-outs of
that aren't just the ones they've already said.
Yeah, well, yeah, not just like Call of Duty exclusive stuff. Some of the stuff, they still have some problems over across overseas, with things there. So Game Pass stuff and some of those things, I don't think it goes through as cleanly as they want it to go.
Probably
through,
not.
Is my 2 cents there. But see what happens when Activision gets on the stand.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh boy! Finally, we get to hear from Bobby Kotick.
Maybe after they hear from him, they're like, you know what? Just no. Just that's just better off not. That's happening now. We'll probably touch on this again when we come back from break because more will be known. I'm sure there will be some actual perspective that can sum up how well this went from people who have the bona fides to kind of parse those things. Right now, looking through this stuff, gonna say a little tough to parse. Pretty scattershot out there. A lot of people trying to pull a lot of information together with these things. Quickly here, moving on. A couple of other very fast stories. Nintendo basically saying, "Look, we got this Nintendo account stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When it's time for the next generation, Nintendo." Could be able to bring that account over to your next platform, your next console.
Wow.
Which
radical innovations in technology.
Look,
I mean, yes,
for
but also
Nintendo.
for like everything Nintendo does in that space is like, I don't know, very damning with faint praise kind of stuff, right?
Yeah,
Like the bar is so low for anything Nintendo does online or with accounts or anything that continuity between two platforms is to be celebrated.
Yeah, it also, whenever stuff like this comes around and it feels like they've actually figured something out, it really has the tone of you are congratulating your 3-year-old for not pissing on the toilet seat, you know? Like,
Look,
oh, you did it! That's great for you!
If I don't have to figure out some new weird arcane friend code thing on the next system to get people...
No, you'll be using the same old arcane friend code.
That's
Fine.
right.
You know what? I can live with that.
As long as I can bring my 4 friends over, 2 of you included, onto the next console, that's at least a little bit better there.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, this is a testament to the fact that they finally figured it out on the Switch, right? Like, I actually just listened to a kind of condensed business history of Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
By condensed, I mean like 4 hours long. It was a good reminder that, like, I don't even know if the online shit on the Wii had a name, did it? Like, there was the Wii shop, right? And the DSi stuff, DSiWare was active at the same time. Like, I don't think that even really had an umbrella name. Then they had, like, the Nintendo Network ID, I believe it was, on the Wii U. Anyway, like, they finally got to a point where, like, you know, they've got tens of millions of people paying them monthly now for an online service.
Right.
Like, they finally figured that out in a way that's going to sustain that business. And so on some level, it would be crazy to throw that away.
Yeah. So, yes, damning with faint praise, but hey, look, at least they're saying it should have infrastructure's in place. Yeah,
I wonder if you could also view this as like some tangential evidence of backwards compatibility on the next Switch as well. I mean, like, I'll fucking eat a hat if it doesn't have it. Like, it seems inconceivable to me that the next Switch will not run games from the current Switch. But
I'm kind of with you at this point.
You know, if they're building in, if they're building a seamless transition in on the account and online side, then that probably is a little more credibility for that idea being true.
I will say, to wrap this up, because I don't want anybody to misunderstand, it seems like there is no intention or fire under anybody's ass to put out the next Switch.
No.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's really tough between stuff Nintendo itself has said and like analysts saying, like, yeah, it's still a year and a half away. Supply chain stuff. It's hard to say.
Sounds like sales are doing great. It's according to this Polygon story, software beat this year, 7th year, beat any other of its previous years. And Furukawa said, we consider that we have entered uncharted territory, which I have no idea what that really actually means. But I would say if you judge by the direct, you know, the games that they've announced and that are coming out, they've put out a lot of their big ones. Like we're I don't know. I'm ready. I know you guys are ready. I don't know if Nintendo's
ready for like 2 years now. I mean, there was that story with Ubisoft recently where Nintendo like recommended to them not to put the second Mario and Rabbids out on the Switch because they recommend only doing one installment of a major franchise per console.
Oh, I hadn't seen that.
Oh, that's which, like, you don't say. The last 20 years of your software release schedule.
Yeah.
Don't already make that apparent. Yeah, it very much feels like a platform in its waning days.
Mm-hmm.
I would be kind of shocked if there's not a new Switch next year, then what is happening?
What is happening?
I just want to know what's going to be in that thing.
In like hardware wise.
Yes.
Look, if there's going to be a new Switch next year, then that's probably locked at this point, right? Or at least close to
yeah,
locked.
I mean, the design is, I'm sure, basically locked in at this point. I mean, anything could change at the last minute, I guess. But
yeah.
Current rumors out there are putting it probably at around the performance of a PS4.
Oh, come on.
But we'll see. A base model PS4.
They can do better.
No, they really can't.
They can. I believe in them. They cannot piss on the toilet seat.
Okay, they won't. All
right, that's fair.
Is really the case because they're going to go with hardware that is already long in the tooth because it's cheap to get in volume.
A very Nintendo thing I had to try and explain to my son, who seemed also very confused, and I confused myself going through it, was DS, 3DS to 2DS. And he's like, well, what are all the 2DS games? And I was like,
Okay.
Well, I was like, I don't think there are 2DS games. I think they're all 3DS games you play on the 2DS. He's like, well, did the 2DS come out before the 3DS? No. He's like, is the 2DS the sequel to the DS? I was like, no, it's the kind of not 3D. He's like, why'd they take the 3D out of the 3DS?
These are questions that are as old as time itself.
So don't rely on Nintendo for making sense of the video game.
No,
just
not.
rely on them for making really cool video games and that Mario. I think lastly here, let's wrap up the news section with, did we talk officially about E3 getting closed in a news segment? I feel like it came up maybe during a stream or something.
I think it comes up every other week now.
I think it was on a stream that it came up that some LA convention center or fucking Chamber of Commerce, I don't know who it was down there, talking about events being canceled in the next 2 years, including E3's 2024 and 2025.
Yep. Goodbye, E3. Official. I was semi-official. E3. There's a story out. IGN published a story about kind of the earnings from the ESA and E3, which I found kind of fascinating. About the kind of money that comes in and what they spend on those things. Just quickly here, the breakdown for the 2021 online thing. You know, remember their the whatchamacallit? Not great for them. They apparently spent, well, it's a little confusing, but it spent around, let's say, 6 to 7 million ish, because they kind of roll up a lot of their trade shows and stuff into their spends on their reporting. But revenue that they marked for E3 was 3.4 million for coming in. So
that's not the same.
That's not much.
No, previous years was much better. But ESA member fees are like 26 million.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're still making their money from all of that stuff.
I feel like I remember it was said to be like half and half back around like 2018-19 when the future of E3 was getting dodgy.
Yeah,
but
so
I feel like I remember hearing that it was about E3 comprised about half of their revenue, and I assume the other half is membership dues.
So some of the other numbers IGN has in their story do bear that out. Like that does seem closer, if not half, sometimes maybe like a third or so. One way. But it's definitely was waning. I mean, like, look, it makes sense. You don't need a report to tell you that. If E3 were making a ton of money, there'd be E3.
Yes.
So
without a doubt.
But ESA, I don't know. ESA memberships, I guess, still going strong.
Well, you still have to be in the ESA generally if you
yeah.
want them to lobby for you, which I think they still do that, right?
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's a lot. It's of that 26 million, 8 million in ESRB rating fees. So, I don't know.
This seems like a racket. I'm going to say it right now. This whole thing seems like a racket.
You know, I don't know.
I'm just saying, you want to put a little video game out, you gotta pay your ESRB fees. You know, you want that rating, you gotta come to us.
Yeah, look, I don't disagree, but
I'm just saying, you don't want me to come in there, break your gold master. You gotta pay for the rating, all right?
Oh, what'd you make? Oh, this is looking like an art. This is looking like an adult AO title to me. Come on. Yeah. Oh boy. Just I don't know. That's a real tough.
I don't think we can put this in GameStop unless you pay up.
That's right. Maybe you could grease the wheels a little bit. Oh yeah, no. We can get this down to an M. We could work something out. We could get this.
See, this joke doesn't work because the ESRB is like, or the ESA and all that. Like, it's all fucking way too incompetent to ever actually pull off like a real racketeering scam.
Yeah, you're probably right. Anyway, that's always funny. You can go check out more of the E3 and kind of ESA breakdown over at IGN. They have a kind of neat story about it. I was always supremely curious what the over-under was on that whole trade show, especially with the companies coming from GameSpot and Giant Bomb, where I'll just say anecdotally, a lot of the times it was depending on how they mentioned the earnings in a meeting post those things, you can kind of get the sense from where they're coming at. Sometimes they would say, oh, we brought in we had X amount in profits, right? And then the next year they'd say, oh, wow, we earned X amount from E3, right? And don't talk about the profit. Like, you don't talk about how much you actually spent at E3. So, look, sometimes those things, you don't always make money. That's going to do it for...
All that matters is the big number you can show to the people upstairs.
That's right. And that's exactly what I learned from those meetings. It's like, Billy, you could spin numbers any freaking way you want. If you just talk about, we brought in 20 million from E3, and nobody raises their hand and be like, did we spend 21 million or so? Giant Bomb never spent 21 million. Giant Bomb never brought in 20 million for E3.
As far as we know, that's what they told us.
We never had those big Samsung deals. We didn't get those big deals. Boy, the Hail Mary Samsung deal. Saved E3 again. Samsung's got us.
No.
That's gonna do it for the news. Like I said earlier, we are going to be off next week. So as more of this Activision Blizzard stuff comes through, we'll be coming right back the week after to stand on the shoulders of giants who have already done the best summarizing and commentary on it, and we'll just kind of use that as our platform here. Brad Shoemaker, are there any emails this week that you would like to share with our fine audience?
Here briefly.
We have an email address. It is podcast@nextlander.com. Podcast@nextlander.com. What you got, Brad?
Here's one from David in Perth. Give me your best Australian Perth.
Oh, no.
Pith.
Crikey! Who brought the dunny brush out here?
That's...
biscuits. Boff on a biscuit.
That's fucking terrible.
What? Come on.
I'm sorry, man. Yeah, look, I know I do a lot of bad accents, but holy shit.
Come on, Alex. What's wrong with my Australian accent? It's not terrible.
It's not Bonza either.
You're from Perth. I'm from Sydney. That's clearly why we have different accents, mate. Get it. Yeah. It's beautiful. Thing.
Let's move along.
I'm gonna read the email.
Okay, please.
Dave in Perth. The death of physical media has recently been on my mind, and mostly with how having access to my parents' library of music and books shaped so much of my early life. Discovering D&D from my dad's old AD&D books, or Ursula Le Guin and Tolkien from my mum's paperback collection are defining moments of my life. But like most people, my wife and I fully embraced the digital future and got rid of most of our physical games, CDs, books, and DVDs over the course of several house moves. But now we are planning to have kids, and I'm thinking of rebuilding and curating a physical media library for them to discover. Most people I tell this to think it's a ridiculous idea, and that the ease of YouTube and streaming is just going to mean it will go untouched. But my wife and I are still attached to the idea and have been hitting up some secondhand markets, buying up CDs and paperbacks of things we genuinely love. Though we haven't bit the bullet yet on movies or TV because Blu-rays are still quite pricey. What do you think of this general idea? If any, do your kids go through your old media? Do we just have to admit we're lying to ourselves and we're just collecting this stuff for us and using kids as an excuse? Will it even be appreciated by these future children?
We are lying to ourselves, but we don't have to admit it.
Yeah, that's right. You're here.
It's the beauty of lying.
Here is my perspective as someone who actually had the same thought. Like, this is a thing. Like, you want to have the experience of your kids being able to walk by a shelf, see a bad cover of something, pluck it off, and remember that cover and do a thing.
Or a great cover.
Covers
used to be better.
We keep physical books in our house just for that reason, so that we can loan out physical books to the kids. We don't give them a Kindle or something. We're like, oh, great, we keep our favorite books we wanted. That's the only reason we keep physical books. My wife and I also have ebooks that we mostly read from, but we keep the physical books for the kid. That works out. The problem, here's your problem. The problem with the physical digital media is the device you're going to have to play it on won't be in your entertainment center by the time the kids want to watch it. So, like, the Blu-ray you have now possibly will work in some kind of Blu-ray player you have, but most likely you're going to have to truck out some old analog piece of or not analog, but older piece of equipment because the thing you think they're going to want to watch, they're not going to want to watch for another 5 years.
Yeah.
And then
I am currently debating how much of my time I want to spend next week digging out not only my Xbox One X, which is deep in the closet, but also finding my pair of 3D glasses for my TV that still supports 3D.
Oh hell yeah, you should find those.
Because I've got the Dread 3D Blu-ray.
Oh hell yes,
dude!
And I would really like to watch that movie in 3D because it seems like one of the few that was made back in that era that seems like, oh wow, this actually did cool stuff with 3D.
Yes, it did.
And I have no idea where those glasses are. It could take me like half a day to find them.
Is it cheaper for you to get like eBay some or like
I haven't even
used?
looked. It's been so long. I assume you couldn't even buy them at this point.
You could probably buy them used. I don't know. You definitely can't buy
Yeah.
new ones, but I bet there are someone on eBay that is selling those right now.
I mean, I definitely have a basically new, never used pair
somewhere
of 3D glasses for this TV in this house somewhere, but it could take a very long time to find them.
Well, don't worry. The next time you move, you will find them accidentally.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you have to do it. But I appreciate the sentiment and the effort, and I think it's important, and I agree with it. There are some logistical concerns with that stuff. My kids stream everything. You can make a Plex server and that rip those things, put them on Plex, and then make a profile for the kids on Plex or something like that, where they have their own library. And my kids do use that, so they will do that. But I mean, I don't know.
Here's my last piece of advice: do it for yourself. Do it because you think it's cool to have that stuff. And then if the kids are into it, that's fucking great. You know? I mean, I'm with him. Like, I discovered music because my parents had a pretty decent-sized record collection. And, obviously I didn't love everything that they listened to, but, like, that's how I discovered the Beatles and Michael Jackson and a bunch of other stuff that, I really liked when I was a kid. And then, that sort of segued into me liking a lot of other different music. Yeah. My dad would fucking record movies off of HBO with VHS tapes, and that is how I got copies of like Beetlejuice and fucking Ghostbusters that I like wore out. And obviously a kid doesn't have to do that stuff necessarily anymore, especially if you teach them about piracy early. But nonetheless, I think having that stuff at the ready and having that stuff available in a way that is just like, well, you can just have it. Here it is. Here's the physical disc. You just put it in and go. If they don't care, they don't care. But if you think that's cool, it's still worth it.
I mean, maybe you and I, and probably Brad, have a bigger appreciation for the autonomy or the kind of agency you have when have your own physical media, like an ownership over it. I don't know if my kids care about that stuff. Like, they don't even put discs in to play games. It's but they do pick what they want to watch, but they mostly just surf through Netflix and, like I said, the Plex server. So
that's that's the way of things.
You got to have them break your disc at some point.
Yeah.
Get fingerprints all over it. Lose
Hell
it.
Yes.
Put it in the wrong.
Fuck that shit up, man.
Yeah, that's a rite of passage. Why is my Ghostbusters Blu-ray in the Beetlejuice slipcase? Now where's the Beetlejuice slipcase? Guys, you got to put these things away. You cannot leave them here. This is not a coaster. Who put it face down? All of those things.
All of these things.
How will kids know how to pop a freaking Blu-ray or DVD out of that weird tensioned little donut? That's a thing you have to learn. You got to push the button down while at the same time grabbing the edges of it. It's a very complicated system, and don't walk around with it on your finger like you're a pizza man with the hot delivery there. Just grab it by the edges and put it in the tray and be done.
Yeah,
got to teach the kids.
Got to teach them.
Kids. Any other emails, Brad?
Let's do one more here with no signature on it.
Okay. Anonymous.
Well, I assume it's English out of the UK, so let me warm up the old vocal cords here.
Jesus Christ. All right.
No, Brad, go ahead.
The Final Fantasy series simply must be numbered.
Okay.
Otherwise, we end up with Kingdom Hearts names.
Oh.
Do you want every game to be Final Fantasy, the de-remembered, last forgotten effigy?
I do.
Yes.
Well, when you put it like that, when you say it like that,
like I was with this person's argument until they said that, and now I'm like, you know what? Actually,
yeah, you're yes.
There's some value in that.
Free Final Fantasy from this legacy. Just do it. Like, just free it from these expectations and this argument about what constitutes a Final Fantasy, and just stop putting numbers on them, and then they can be anything.
Brad, I'm gonna. Final Fantasy, maybe the best out of anyone here. Let me. Can I play a quick game with you? Very quick.
Sure.
Ready? We're gonna rename the entire Final Fantasy franchise by the key character key character in the game. Ready?
Like protagonists?
It doesn't matter. Whatever you like. This is how I remember Final Fantasies by the character could be the protagonist or it could be the person that is the most important in the game. Right?
Okay.
Character, and I'm gonna go with starting with U.S. Final Fantasy 1.
Okay. No names. I mean, unless you mean like villains, because you could name.
It could be
characters.
villains. No, it could be Garland.
Tiamat, Garland.
Okay, so Final Fantasy Garland, right?
Sure.
And you would know exactly what that means. Let's again, U.S. names only. Final Fantasy 2.
I never played 2. Or you mean 4?
4, yes.
The 4 that came out here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes. Cecil, Rosa,
yep.
Kane.
Final Fantasy Cecil, you would know exactly what it is.
Yes.
Whatever we're calling the next U.S. release.
6, 3.
Yep.
Yeah, Terra, Locke, Celeste, Edgar, Sabin, Gao,
anybody.
Umaro, on and on.
You would
Wait,
know
it's
exactly.
Sabin, it's not Sabin?
Final Fantasy Umaro. I always said
Umaro.
Sabin.
Okay.
Kefka.
Sure.
Final Fantasy Kefka. All right, I'm going to skip forward to 7. Easy. Cloud. You know exactly who it is.
I could just go in
Cloud.
order here. Cloud,
Yeah.
Squall, Zidane,
Yep.
Titus, Yuna, Waka.
Just go with that. Let's just do that.
Yes.
Everybody knows who that is.
Vaughn, Lightning.
And then I would stop having to ask, like, is that the one with
Is that the one with that one guy in the place with the thing?
Final Fantasy Clive.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can get this going. All right. Anyway, that's my solution. You could take it or leave it. Square Enix. Any other emails, Brad?
about Final Fantasy Sidolphus Telemon.
Okay, I wouldn't know what
Sid in this game.
Tight.
Sid, not only being a major character voiced by Ralph Ineson, his full name is also Sidolphus.
Sidolphus. Okay, great, fantastic. Brad, do we want to wrap up the emails there?
Yep.
Let's do it.
Calling it. You can send emails into podcast@nextlander.com. Again, that is podcast@nextlander.com. That is going to do it for this week's show, folks. Again, we are off next week. You can go check out all of our previous Summer of Games announcement releases that are up. Catch up with that stuff. Catch up on the previous Watchcast stuff. We recently did a big 4-episode run through David Lynch. Three episode run through the David Lynch verse, including Wild at Heart, Dune, and Blue Velvet. So you can go check those out. And we just recorded, which will go up the week after we come back, right? That's right. The first 2 episodes. You mentioned the naming convention is bad.
The pilot episode and the first regular episode of Twin Peaks.
Yeah, so look forward to that after we come back. You can check that out over at patreon.com/Nextlander. We also have a new episode of Never Been a Better Podcast going up soon. That might go up after we come back. I have to see if I have time to get that thing processed before we leave. We do also have we'll have a podcast in this feed here that you're listening to this in, which will be episode 2 of Never Been a Better Podcast. We're going to put that up in the feed. It'll be slightly edited in the public feed to have ad breaks in it, but for all intents and purposes, it will be the same. I believe that's Abby Russell and Jeff Backlar joining us on that one. Which is different. This new one coming up is Austin and Abby. So
yes,
that'll be the newest one going up. Yeah, again, you can check all of that out at patreon.com/Nextlander, where you can find a whole bunch of tiers there. You can find a tier that's right for you. Maybe you're looking for that Never Been a Better Podcast tier. Maybe you're looking for that getting that Watchcast a week early tier. Bunch of tiers there. You could be looking at the mysterious Benefactor tier, the one tier that gets their names read on this here show, and I'm gonna do it! And I'm gonna do it in my Australian... No, I'm not.
Oh, thank God.
No, I'm not. I'm gonna do it. Here are the mysterious benefactors for this week. RRE, John Richardson, Vornak, Kelly F., Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Sean Miller, Brad's Midsize Hoodoo Voodoo, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee. Deidre has a new job and is paying it forward. Gary Pejke, Robert Fisher, John McInnes, Sudo user mod -a-g root buddy crimes.
Wait, sudo?
Sudo. Don't do it.
We can't get into this.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Don't do it. Somebody just lost all their information.
Sudo, no.
Peter Reardon, Thomas Lynn, Jad Rita, Statics, Andrew Jackson, Mega Crane, Razgriz 2, Brian Murphy, Trevor and Adrian R, Randy Duax, Andrew Tiebkin, Alex Wu, It's Me JP, Matt Clements Jr., Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese. Those are our mysterious benefactors for this week. I want to thank you, and I want to thank all of the people who have supported us over on Patreon, watched our stuff, listened to our podcast, enjoyed our stuff. We appreciate it. Couldn't do it without you. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Can't do it without you. Brad Shoemaker. Sudo.
I'm sorry.
Sudo.
We can't.
Sudo.
I'm a sudo
Sudo?
guy. Yes.
Oh, interesting. Sudo. Is there? What's the right one? Because I don't know. I never hear anybody ever say it.
Depends on. I don't know that there is a right one, but
interesting.
it means like super user do or substitute user do.
Oh, I see. So you're using
do as these things. In fact, the competing utility, the most popular alternative, is called do as.
Okay, not doaz.
No.
Maybe I'll change. Hey, look, I'm always open to new things.
Do as mesh.
Okay. Okay. Very good. All right, that's going to do it. Like I said, we're off next week. We won't be streaming. We'll have the Ramblecast and the Never Been a Better podcast in the podcast feed. Hopefully, if anybody has any time off for 4th of July, you're having a good one, relaxing, doing what you want to do out there over in the United States here. We're going to be back the week after, and then we'll have some new Watchcasts, which I'm very excited to get into. I really enjoyed what I have seen so far of Twin Peaks. Seems pretty interesting. Agent Cooper. You can hear our thoughts, Brad and my thoughts on, holy shit, Deadly Premonition. What the hell?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
What the hell? Why did everybody tell me about this at the time, and I didn't register any of it? You can check that out when we get back. Thank you, Alex Navarro. I hope you have a fantastic break. Thanks for recording in your new space.
Hey, other than a couple of internet blips, seems like it's working pretty well, so.
Mm-hmm. Brad Shoemaker, thank you very much. I also hope you have a fantastic break.
Thank you. Same to you.
And thanks, everybody, again. We'll see you on the other side of the break. Take it easy. We'll be back soon.